Hello, everybody, and welcome to Office Hours. It is Tuesday. It's 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, which means I'm here talking to you when I probably should be eating lunch, but I'm so glad to be here. Thank you guys all for tuning in. My name is Jeff Blankenburg, and I am our Chief Technical Evangelist here at Amazon for Alexa. And today I have the good fortune of having Santosh Gowda with us. It's very rare that I get to bring somebody here onto this broadcast that's actually on my team. Often I bring folks from the product team or from the science organization or something like that. But Santosh and I actually work directly together. And we're here today to talk about Alexa Learning Lab, something you guys may have seen announced at Alexa Live. So Santosh, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Jeff. Happy to be here. Hi, everybody. I'm a product manager here at Amazon. I'm really excited to be here today and talk about Alexa Learning Labs.
Yeah.
Here.
So I think that's probably a good lead in is for those that maybe missed it at Alexa Live or maybe just need a refresher. Can you tell us all what Alexa Learning Lab is?
Absolutely. So Alexa Learning Lab is a new e-learning solution. So what I mean by that is it's a e-learning solution that combines learning with practice, right? It provides you many opportunities to not only just learn, but you can practice what you learn. Like think about learning before, right? You had to go to the tech docs, you had to then go to your developer console, open up your set up your skills, and then practice the feature, the feature there. But with Alexa Learning Lab, you can learn that feature, and within the e-learning system itself, there is an inbuilt coding editor where you can really practice what you just learned and get real-time feedback as well. And that's the unique thing about Alexa Learning Lab there.
That's pretty cool. And it was actually one of the things that I was most excited about when I first got to play with this, is that if you think about just the heavy lift that's required, I want to try a new thing, right? I don't know what the feature is, but let's like APL is a good example because I know you guys have a course on this. But I want to play with APL and I want to see how some of the things work. Well, in order to do that, for the most part, I have to build an entire skill. I mean, I could just start with a base template, but I still have to build an entire skill, get all of that up and running, and then I can start kind of mixing in some APL and playing around. But even that requires a significant amount of work just to push those dialogues and all the other things. So that's one of my favorite features about Alexa Learning Lab for sure, is that I can just go in there, I can construct some things and get feedback about what I'm doing right, how I could improve things. Like all of that stuff is I think the real gold in all of this.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned earlier that we have a lot of really good resources available to developers, like the tech docs, and we have tutorials for those people that haven't had a chance to play with Cake Time. It's a really good example of how you can kind of follow a step-by-step set of instructions on how to build your first skill. With specific examples, can you give me an example of like how is this different from like reading resources like tech docs and tutorials?
Yeah, I think Jeff, like you mentioned, when you go learn a feature using some of those tech docs and the tutorials that are out there, it requires you to go set up your skills, be at that level where you can go try the feature out, right? Now, with Alexa Learning Lab, what you can really do is we present you an skill that is inbuilt to the coding editor, where you can just practice that specific feature. For example, think about APL. You have to go set up your voice skill and then learn how to add visuals using those APL there. But with Alexa Learning Lab, you can start off writing your APL documents right away using the tool itself right there.
Very cool. And of course, it provides you guidance and instruction on like, hey, you should try this, or here's how you move some things around to make this kind of thing happen, right?
Absolutely, yes. So the other cool feature of the coding labs is, so the moment you start learning, you start writing in the code there, you submit the code, you will get real-time feedback. It tells you, hey, what are the things that is, that is right, that you have done correctly? What are the things that you could improve? What are the areas that you need focus on? So it guides you throughout, through that learning process there.
Cool. We just had an interesting question, and so I just want to take a pause and address the chat room for just a second before I continue on this. But there's a bunch of folks, a bunch of our good regulars that are here, like A. Witters and Alan Furstenberg. Habuma is here. Brian Tarbox, Data Driven Skills. These are all folks that are here most of the time, and I'm glad you guys are here. Thank you for joining. Lita Gemini is here. That's a name that I don't regularly recognize, but I'm glad you're here. And it seems like Lita might be in the same time zone as me. And they said that it's noon where they are. But one of the questions that just came in, and I did not prepare you for this, Santosh, so if this is not convenient or challenging to do, then we can pass on it. But Frank asked if it's possible for us to do a demo of the Alexa Learning Lab. One of the things I'd like to do, and I have some folks behind the scenes that can provide links to these kinds of resources. So we'll certainly share links about how you get to the Learning Lab and how you get access to this stuff. But is that something you'd be prepared to do today, Santosh?
Yeah, absolutely. We
Okay.
can
So we can
go and look at
do
some
easy
examples.
screen sharing here, and we'll make that happen. We don't need to do it right now, but we'll do some screen sharing, and we'll definitely do a quick demo for you, Frank, just so you can see how that all works. And Brian Tarbox also had a question. Brian, I don't know the answer to this, and as you mentioned, it's upcoming stuff. But his question was, I know you can't tell us about upcoming stuff, but have there been any recent announcements about testing tasks without needing to go through certification first? I'm not aware of anything, but I've marked your message for follow-up, so I'll take a look at that, and we'll see if we can't address that in the near future. Okay, Santosh, before we move on to trying to get you into a demo and some of that stuff, although if you want to get that prepped on your screen, that's always good. I think one of the cool things to share with people would be to let them know outside of APL, which we've talked about, what kind of courses are available in the Learning Lab today?
Right. So today we have one learning series, what we generally call as the learning path, called Build Visually Rich Experiences Using APL. This takes deeper into, if you already have a voice skill, right? It takes you steps into the process of adding visuals to your voice only the skills. It starts with some fundamentals, then takes you through some, using Alexa here templates, built-in templates to build visuals, and then goes on to some of the advanced topics of creating your own the templates layouts, and also how to learn how to use touch interactions there. So we have this series is already out there for you to start learning on. But it would be a great starting point to start learning how to add visuals to your voice only skills.
Got it. Perfect. So it's primarily focused around multimodal skills, building things with APL. That is the course that's available today. But without leaking anything, we anticipate that there's going to be future courses on a variety of topics going forward, right?
Absolutely. So I think we have a pipeline of the courses that is being built right now, and in fact, we are also enhancing and going deeper into some of the APL courses as well. So today you see 3. There's 2 more in the works that's going to be released later in the year.
Great. Oh, that's exciting. All right. So the next thing I wanted you to do was tell me about this course, but I feel like we could do kind of a show and tell at the same time. That might be a useful way to do this. So are you in a position? Are you ready to share your screen?
Yes, give me 10 seconds.
Sure.
I'm just logging in. All right.
And as
Right.
soon as you've shared it, then I can add it to the screen.
Looks like I need to give some permissions.
Oh, okay. That might also bump you out of your browser or require you to refresh this, which if that's
Yes.
okay, we can make that happen.
Yeah, it requires me to close and reopen that back. Is it okay if I quickly
Yeah.
restart this and come back? Right?
Yeah. Go ahead, and I'll fill the air by talking about something interesting.
Awesome. I'll be.
Santosh will be right back. So in the meantime, while we wait for him to come back, I have a little bit of news I can share with all of you. The first is you guys know that I travel around to a bunch of events from time to time, and later this week I'm going to be at Codepalooza. Yes, it's as cool as it sounds. It's in Louisville, Kentucky. That's where the Lou part of Codepalooza comes from. But I'm going to be there in Louisville, Kentucky, talking at the event Codepalooza. I'm giving a talk you may have heard me mention before called The Future of People, but it's kind of a futurist look at what voice assistants and ambient computing are going to look like in our lives 5 or 10 years from now. So if you're in the Louisville area or even within a short drive, I can't recommend enough. The event itself is fantastic. It's all about software development, but I'll be there as well. I'd love to meet you if you have a chance to get over there. Another thing I should mention is that next week I may or may not actually be here. We're going to have office hours, but I may have to find a guest host. I've got some personal stuff that I need to handle, and it's the morning of office hours. And so instead of trying to risk whether or not I'll be here, I think we're going to find a guest host and have them head up office hours for us next week. So we'll have details about that. We'll share it in the description when we publish all of these events out to social media. But I just want to let you know that you may see a different face here next week. Welcome back, Santosh.
All right, glad to be back. I'm all set, I think. Let me share again. See if this works this time. All right, share screen.
One other thing I should mention while Santosh is getting this loaded is that regardless of whether or not I'm going to be here next week, we will be bringing in a guest who is the person responsible for the hackathon that we announced a few weeks ago as well. And so if you guys aren't familiar, we have a hackathon that's based on building skills for folks that are aging. There's a better name for it, but I'm forgetting the actual specific official name of the hackathon. But there is an Alexa Skills hackathon that's specifically around building skills for people that are active and aging, right? So like think 50 plus in the generation that we're talking about. And so if you have an idea or you think you want to build something cool related to that, Heidi will be here to talk all about that hackathon, how you can get involved, what the prizes are. I know they have a whole bunch of money and prizes assigned to this. The official name is Aging and Engaging. That's excellent. Man, it is so cool to have a team of people behind feeding me the words that I need to say sometimes. Thank you for everybody that did that. Okay, so Santosh, how's the sharing going?
I am sharing. It says I'm sharing. Do you see it?
I do not see it. Normally, it's a thing here that I can add to our show, but I don't see it. Oh, and he's gone. We lost him. He fell into the ether. Hopefully, he'll be back soon. In the meantime, there's a couple of other questions I'll try to answer here in the chat. Can an Alexa skill use Alexa contacts to make an Alexa call? There's a lot of Alexa words in that sentence, Frank. But in fact, no, you can't do that. So within an Alexa skill, you cannot make a phone call. And the reason that I say that is because you can't actively like turn your skill experience into like a customer service call or even just a direct phone call. But the thing that you can do, and this is the recommendation I make to lots of folks, is there's a lot of different telephony services out there like Twilio. And with a service like that, you could actually provide it two phone numbers, the number that you have and the number that you want to call, which would be your customer or your user's phone number, something you can get from the permissions API. And doing that, you could use Twilio to actually have both ends called so that it basically connects a call. But it would not be through the skill. It would not be through the device even. It would have to be a separate phone call. So there are ways to do this programmatically, but it would not, unfortunately, be through the device. See if I can get one more in here. Santosh, I still don't see your sharing input. So if we don't get it here, I'm happy to pass for now, and we can try to do that another time. Let's see. Yeah. So Kyler is here on YouTube, and he says he's a seasoned developer but new to Alexa programming. Are there resources for turning an Amazon thermostat on and off programmatically? Yes, Kyler. You say, I see docs for an interface, but that seems to be for most thermostat manufacturers to conform to. You're absolutely right. Actually, there's not a whole lot of programming necessary if you already have a thermostat from a third-party provider. Almost all of them, you can set those up directly in the app. If it's a smart thermostat on your home Wi-Fi, you should be able to just go into the Alexa app and search for devices, and it should be able to find that thermostat, at which point then you can talk to your devices and control that thing. If you are asking about how can I programmatically control my thermostat that I didn't make, there isn't. You'd actually have to look at whoever your manufacturer is. Now, in this case, you said it's an Amazon thermostat. You'd have to see what APIs and services your individual thermostat offers, and maybe you could build something against that. But more often than not, if you have a third-party thermostat already, it's more likely that you would just need to hook it up. There isn't any programmatic action really that needs to be taken at all. So Santosh, no luck?
No. Sorry, no luck yet. But I
Okay.
get a message from Google Chrome saying that there is a known issue with Chrome that requires me to recheck and the security settings and restart Chrome.
Got it. Okay. Well, if we have time a little later, maybe we'll try to give that a run.
Sure.
I'm going to get through a couple of other questions here. Witter says, it finally rained in southern England. So just a background, Santosh. I went over there a couple weeks ago to England and Paris for a trip for our Alexa Innovator series. And this is the first time it has rained since I was there. While I was there, England got over 40 degrees Celsius for the first time ever. It was some of the hottest days they've ever had. So, Oxygen Box in the chat has asked, we're talking about different topics. Some people have mentioned some things in the comments about other Learning Labs courses they'd like to see. One on tasks and routines and events, things like send a phone, also shopping actions. And someone else mentioned, Kunal on LinkedIn said Alexa Conversations would also be a very good topic. But this person, Oxygen Box, said we should do a Learning Lab series on how to share your screen on StreamYard. He thought that would be a useful course, which seems topical right now. Let's see if we have anything else. There's some conversations happening on the side here, but they're all about managing tasks in a routine and stuff like that. Kyler also says, I just want to control the temperature. Amazon made the thermostat. So this is my feedback for you, Kyler. There are two ways to control your thermostat that you didn't make. If you're building your own device, we have a whole other conversation to have, but it doesn't sound like that's the case here. So you have an Amazon thermostat. Two things really that give you the option to control some stuff. First is you should be able to just hook it up to Alexa directly. You just use the app, Discover Devices, and you're off and running. But you can also use a service called If This Then That. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not. A lot of people have used it. It's IFTTT, If This Then That, IFTTT.com. And with that, you can also connect it to all of your smart home devices and do all sorts of interesting things with a lot of the things that happen inside your smart home. I'll give you a quick example. With the Alexa app, I can't do what we call geofencing, which is, imagine I draw a big circle around my house, or maybe like even like a 500 feet beyond my house, all the way around. Geofencing, the concept behind this is that if I enter that geo ring, then I could do something. Some event could fire. And if I leave that geo ring, then some other event could fire. And you could use this for your garage door, right? If I pull into that circle, boom, I want my garage door to open. And if I leave that circle, I want my garage door to close. That is the kind of thing that you would do with If This Then That. You can set up those geofences, you can do that kind of stuff, and then send things directly to your thermostat or your garage door or lighting or whatever. But I would recommend between those two, you're not programming anything. You're really just setting up some triggers and configuring some things. But there isn't a lot of programming to be done. If you're trying to program your Amazon thermostat, there isn't really a lot of options there. So you say you have an Arduino as a remote temperature sensor and you want to turn the thermostat on and use that to turn the thermostat on and off. Okay. Still with you. I think If This Then That is the right way to go. You can actually look at something called webhooks. So you'd have your Arduino have an event fire, right? Hey, temperature fell outside of range. You would just make a call to a webhook inside If This Then That, and that would allow you to then trigger that thermostat to turn on, set a temperature, do whatever. So hopefully that's a good rough estimate of how you're going to do that. But I don't think that there's an easy way, at least with an Amazon thermostat. I don't know if they have open APIs that would allow you to talk directly to your devices. But going through If This Then That gives you the ability to kind of chain those things together. That's my thought on that one. Anyway, sorry, that was a long journey, but hopefully that helps. Okay. So I had one more question for you. I guess because we don't have a visual, can you tell me kind of what this learning series looks like? I mean, we talked about the build visually rich experiences using APL, but
Right.
Can you talk to me about some of the things people would expect to find in there?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go to developer.amazon.com today, and under Docs, we've introduced a new the page called Trainings and Workshops. So where we're consolidating all our trainings and workshops out now, they're available today. So in there, you will see a new learning series being introduced called Build Visually Rich Experiences using APL, right? If you click on Start Learning there, you'll be taken to one of our partner the applications we partner with. Um, and you'll start off with learning the foundations of the multimodal skills, right? What is a multimodal skills? It would include, why is it needed? How does it enhance the experience of your voice skills? Giving you some great examples out there, and just grounding you on some of the foundations of it. So that's pretty much what is course one. So moving on there, going to the course two, you will get into an hands-on learning of adding a visual to an existing voice only skill. So we've built a game for this purpose. What we're doing is we have a game called Guess the Number Game, which we have a skill that we have built. And as part of this course, you'll be learning to add visuals to that voice only skill, right? So in this course too, what you'll do is you'll use some of those inbuilt Alexa templates and Alexa components, responsive templates and responsive components to create visuals for those. So that will be course two, and you'll do that hands-on. There's some hands-on exercises that you'll go through to create Alexa, those visuals there. Moving on to course three, which is out there, is about creating responsive displays. This is till now we use responsive templates and components that Alexa provides you. Now we'll learn how to create yourself by using your layouts, containers, components, and those things, and you'll learn how to the build those. So those are three courses out there today. There are two more that are in the works. So moving once you've built this display, now you also want to know how do I now interact with those touch screens, right? So like users going to touch it. There are some events there. So how do I actually interact with them? How do I update those visuals? Those are the things that you learn in the upcoming course, and also adding animations. So those will be coming up in the next couple of months.
Got it. That's great. So I think it sounds like we're giving people a really good, solid foundation on how to get started with APL, how to use it effectively, and how to make it a little more familiar. I think a lot of developers probably come from an HTML, CSS background. I know how to lay things out there, but APL is different than that. And so I think it's nice to be able to give them some insights in like, how do I put things in the right places? How do I separate it into different panels and frames? That's excellent. In fact, there was one question from Rajan Shah on LinkedIn. I don't know if the course covers this. I can't remember. But his question was, how do I change font styles in buttons in APL? Is that something that we talk about?
Yeah, we do. In course three, we do go a little bit deeper into some of the buttons and its properties. And there is a detail. There's one particular exercise which takes you to the step by step of creating a button, and also handling, adding an event to that button.
Got it. Well. Very cool. All right, I've got a few questions here queued up, so I'm gonna take a couple of these. If you have opinions or thoughts on them, please feel free to chime in. But the next one comes from Domenico on YouTube. He says, I know it's off topic, but I was wondering if there will ever be the possibility to add a soundtrack to Alexa skills. Can you imagine how that would change, especially game experiences? So, Domenico, I'm not sure if you're familiar with with APL-A. The A stands for audio, but APL-A really kind of gives you the ability to do that soundtrack behind the speech, like adding additional ambient audio behind what you're doing. So Domenico, if you haven't looked at APL-A, APL-A for me has become one of those things that's just my default now. When I am providing responses back to my user, even if it's only speech, I'm just always using APL-A because it gives me a bunch of freedom and flexibility that I don't get from just a standard text response. So if you haven't played with APL-A, you can find APL-A. It's very easy to find. That is the thing I'd recommend. I think that you'll be very surprised by some of the power that unlocks for you. So hopefully that answers your question. Do we have any APL-A content, Santosh, in the course?
Yeah, I was about to bring. So there are some basics contents, in course one about APL-A, and we clearly call out the distinction between the APL for screens and the APL-A. But APL-A in depth is in one of those courses that was work in progress, and that'll be coming out later this year as well. But cool. Some of the foundations are already in course one.
Cool. Milton on Twitch said, if you've implemented streaming media using APL, when do you want or need to use the video app or the audio player APIs? And just for a background for anybody that doesn't know, early on, probably from day one, we've had a video app interface and an audio player interface that allowed skill developers to provide audio and video experiences to their users on devices with screens. Well, I guess the audio works regardless, but the video one obviously only works on devices with screens. And so, since that time, since we've introduced those two interfaces, we introduced APL. APL also provides the ability to show streaming video, audio files, all of that kind of stuff. In the addition to being able to, make a beautiful screen of content. And I am of the opinion that if you are using APL to provide your video or audio experiences, you probably don't need the video player or the audio player interfaces at all. You can still use them, and there may be conditions where you want to do that, but for the most part, any device that has a screen today supports APL, and so APL seems like it would be the default for me. I can see you maybe leaning into the audio player API if you're talking to a headless device, one without a screen. Maybe then, but even then, you can provide APL-A audio directly to that device, and it would work just fine. So I don't know that I have a specific use case if you're using APL where you would also want to use the video or audio players. Hopefully that answers your question. All right, so let's see. I know there was a couple of other questions here that I thought I hadn't answered. Santosh, I don't know if you'll have the answer to this. I did not bring you here to be an APL expert. I know that you are responsible for like our learning courses. But Data Driven Skills wants to know why SVG assets, which is something that's used commonly across a number of software platforms, why so much SVG is not APL compatible. Do you have any insights into that? I don't specifically, but I know there are SVG to APL converters, but I don't know why there would be incompatibilities. They are for the most part relatively similar.
Yeah, they're relatively similar, but Jeff, even I'm not aware of that. So that's something
okay.
we should follow with the product teams.
That's okay. I like to put people on the spot with questions they may not know the answers to. It's good. No problem. Okay, so let's see. I've got a couple more here. Frank said, please provide a link to the Learning Lab. We just did that, so we've just shared a link for all of you. Do we get the course link? Is it something that we need to register? So Praveen on LinkedIn, I think LinkedIn is the one place that when we post links here in the service that we're streaming from, I think LinkedIn is the only place that we do not get, it doesn't go out to LinkedIn for some reason. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this comment here. This will just take me a second. I'm going to go out to LinkedIn directly. Let's see if I can find our broadcast. And I can comment directly on the post. Whoa. There we go. And then comments. I'll post. Here we go. I'm posting the link right there in LinkedIn. So Praveen, you should see that link now. That's available directly on LinkedIn. Yes, I believe you. And actually, that's a good question for you to clarify, Santosh. Do they have to register, or can they just kind of jump in and play with it?
So if you already have a developer account, you register to developer.amazon.com, you should be able to access those courses out there.
Okay.
But it requires you to be at least logged in, registered and logged in into developer.amazon.com.
Cool. Milton says, do all headless devices now support APL-A? I feel like I'm walking into a trap here. My instinct says yes.
Most of them.
But now I'm not aware of which devices didn't support it at some time. And that's where I feel like this is a trap. So Milton, are there devices specifically, and again, I'm only specifically discussing Amazon manufactured devices. It's very possible that there are third-party devices that have chosen to or to not implement specific features. But I would be curious to know, are there headless devices that did not support APL-A in the past? Because that feels like it should work everywhere, but maybe I'm wrong. Okay.
So Jeff, as of I'm aware, I think APL-A should be supported on most of the devices, but there could be some older devices where it is not. But most of the devices today does support APL-A. Headless devices support APL-A.
there's a third flavor of APLA that does not, or of APL that does not get a whole lot of love, and I'm actually even forgetting the name of it because I've used it so infrequently. There's APL, obviously, which is the full visual layout and interface. There's APLA, which is the audio, the rich audio interface.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another one, and I'm forgetting what it's called. It's like APLT.
APLT, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this was specifically designed for the Echo Dot with clock. Although I'm hoping that there are future applications of this as well.
Yep.
And for those of you that aren't familiar with the Echo Dot with clock, I don't have one here in front of me, but you can imagine the old, well, not old, the Echo Dots that have the fabric edge around the sides. We made a version of that has a digital clock built in, so that what we found was that a lot of people were talking to the device and saying what time it is, and so we thought, or what time is it? And so we thought, hey, let's just put a clock right on the front of it. And because there's a clock and it's a digital interface, right? It's the normal like inexpensive alarm clock interface. It's not like a full digital display. It's just like little panels that you can turn on and off. We thought, hey, actually, we could let people put words on that screen using that same typography. And for the Star Wars skill that I built, for those of you that have been here before, you've heard me talk about the unofficial Star Wars data bank. It's a skill that I built a while ago that answers questions about all sorts of things. But one of the things that it does is allows you to watch any of the opening crawl from any of the Star Wars movies in video if you have a device with a screen. In audio, she'll read it to you if you only have a device that plays audio. But for that in between, if you have the Echo Dot with clock, it will actually use that APLT interface to run all of the words of the opening crawl from a Star Wars movie across that little clock screen. It was just a way for me to experiment and see how it would work. One of the challenges with that screen is that it doesn't even support the entire English alphabet. I think there's 5 letters that it can't even render. So that makes it a little tricky, but I just kind of fudged my way through it and made it as close as I could. But APLT, yeah, that's thank you for reminding me.
And also, Jeff, to add to that, I think we have some of those distinctions on course 1, where we dive into the fundamentals of this APL. So there is APL for audio, APL for screen, and APL for character displays, and you'll find that in course 1.
Got it. Okay, so Milton did clarify that he's just worried about how he needs to support headless in skills for certification, but he hasn't seen anything that doesn't handle APLA, even on his old devices. So yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, everybody's commenting now about, oh yeah, you're talking about APLT for character displays, correct. Let's see. Okay, so Rockalok says, I think we need better examples for the Alexa shopping kit capabilities, which is relatively new. So I'm sure our documentation is good, but probably can be expanded upon as we continue to grow. And he goes, I figured it out by myself. I have 2 skills certified using it, but it could be better. That's really good feedback, Rockalok. I will share that with the team and see if, especially, I know, Rockalok, you have access to me on our Slack community, which this is a great opportunity to take that pause that I take during every office hours to remind everybody that we have a Slack community. And if you're not already a part of it, you can find us at alexa.design/Slack. In that community, there's, I think, just 2,600, 2,700 people that are there that are actively thinking about building Alexa skills and building for voice. It's a fantastic community, really friendly, really supportive, really helpful. And you'll see a lot of the people that are regulars here on office hours there as well. But that being said, Rockalok, I'm pretty sure you have access to me there on Slack. All of you can find me with my name there. But if you have specific recommendations on gaps that we have in our documentation, I would be very interested to have you share that with me via Slack, via email, whatever. And so that's something else that I boldly do on here once in a while, is I will share my email address. So if you want to send me your feedback via email, you're welcome to do that as well. We don't put that on screen as long. Okay, so that is my little commercial about Slack and feedback. Santosh, if we think about the Learning Lab, and as we talked about, we've got this one series of courses now, and this will continue to grow. Who do you see as the people that will benefit the most from using what is available today?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jeff. Um, s- I think I think this course is mostly targeted towards the people who have this voice only skills. So that there are, there are a number of people who have this voice only skills and who can greatly benefit from adding visuals to their skills, right? I think those are people who have their voice only looking to add visuals would greatly benefit by understanding, hey, how I have a voice only skill today. How do I now, bring those voice only skills onto some of the screens with devices? Sorry, so devices with screens, right? So those are the people who would really benefit from
Got it.
this learning
Perfect.
series.
Thank you. All right. So here's what we're going to do, because we have plenty of time. I would love to take an opportunity to have you do a screen share if you can.
Yep.
So if you'd like, if you want to rejoin in a different browser, although we've had some challenges with Firefox, or if there's things you can do in Chrome to make sharing possible, if you want to take that action now, I have a thing I can talk to folks about if you have to close your browser or do whatever. And then when you're ready, we can still do that screen share here at the end. Does that work?
Yep. So
Cool.
let me try that on and be back.
Okay. While Santosh is working on that, I'm going to talk to you all about a project that I'm working on. This is something, as we talked about you guys providing feedback, and I said you guys, I'm really trying to get that out of my vernacular. Y'all, maybe I'm a y'all guy now. One of the things that I'd really like to hear from all of you is specific feedback about our developer console. So one of the projects that I'm working on internally here at Amazon is that I spend a lot of time working directly with our product team, talking to them about the things that you share with me here. I use all of your questions as direct feedback and anecdotes about what works, what doesn't work, what needs improvement. So even though you're just asking a question here, please know that gets carried forward as a data point to say, hey, this is something that we can be better at, and we're constantly trying to improve. And the developer console is one of those things that I feel like needs a lot of improvement. It's good. It does a lot of things very well, but I think there are a lot of improvement points that we could make there. And so the thing that I'm putting together is a page-by-page analysis of the entire developer console process, from creating an account to building your first skill to setting up intents and utterances and slots. In fact, so much so, I'm getting so deep into this that I found a feature this morning that I didn't even know existed. And in fact, while we're waiting for Santosh to come back, I will share my screen because I don't know if you guys know this is here. I asked a couple friends of mine that are Alexa developers outside of Amazon, and I was surprised that they also didn't know. So let me show you this one thing. But the reason that I'm talking about this, like I said, I'm putting this is a very large document that documents every single page, all of the things that go on inside the developer console, with the strengths of that page. Here's the things that are great. Here's things we should keep doing, and issues that page has, or challenges that present things to developers. So let me go into this, and then I'm going to share my screen. Now, I have been warned, Santosh, I'm going to bring you back. I have been warned, though, that when I share my screen, my microphone gets a little crackly. You can still hear me, but it gets a little crackly. So I apologize for that now. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to share this one. And I'm going to jump over to my developer console. So for those of you that have used the Evaluate Model tool before, you may have seen this. We have an utterance profiler. If you don't know these tools exist, they're absolutely awesome, but I don't want to spend a ton of time on it. But the utterance profiler allows you to just type something in and say, hey, I say hello, what happens to my skill? And lets me know that, oh, we would have hit the hello world intent, right? It's a nice way to see where your utterances are landing and what happens when someone says something. Then we also have NLU evaluation. Similar idea, but now I can build a whole set of tests and run all of those tests, kind of like unit testing in code, to see, when I say something, does my skill respond in the way that I expect it to? And even as I continue to make changes, does it do that? And then we also have ASR evaluation. This is where you actually provide audio files. So you would speak your sample utterance, and then it's comparing, did your voice turn into the appropriate utterance? Did it turn into the appropriate intent? Same idea, but you're just moving one step backwards. So I've always played with this tool here, and create new annotation sets, do all that kind of stuff. And it's been really useful and awesome for quite a while. But I went over here today as I'm documenting all these pages, and one of the things that I found was this automated test sets. And I just need to show you this because it's amazing. I hit generate test set, and it says, oh, what do you want to create all your automated tests from? Interaction model, frequent utterances, like whatever, right? Choose interaction model, create test sets, and it actually generates a whole bunch of tests for me for my skill based on my interaction model. So it knows this is what the hello world intent should hit. These are all of my sample utterances that I actually have in my interaction model. And now I can run this thing and say, yep, they all still work. This is amazing that it was able to just generate that all that quickly. In addition to that, the ASR annotation, this is the voice ones, you can also generate these, and it'll actually create
How are you?
Alexa-based speech that it runs against your model as well. So I didn't know that it could generate all these on the fly, but it is super, super cool, and something that I only found by kind of like really digging in. This is not a thing we've talked about publicly that I'm aware of at all, but if you haven't used it before, I highly recommend checking it out. Anyway, that being said, I'm going through the entire process, build, code, test, distribution, all the stuff, and I'm trying to provide feedback. I'm going to stop sharing my screen about all of the pages, all the things that I would like to see changed or improved or moved or whatever. And so if you have any of that stuff, if there's like a top 5 list of like, man, I wish the console did this, or I wish this thing was here, or I wish this was working better, or whatever it is. Oh, I just lost Santosh again. That's okay. But I would love to have any of your feedback. So please, please, if you have anything, I'd love to hear from you. And you can shoot that to me on any of the social stuff, certainly on Slack. I provided my email address. However you'd like to provide that information, I'd love to include it in my document if you have anything specific. Everybody has a couple of pet peeves on the dev console, I'm sure, and I'd love to hear what yours are. All right, so let me see. Okay, I think we're good there. Any luck, Santosh?
Let me try this time. I'm using.
Okay. Ooh, Dana Voice, that's a good one. In the list of skills that you have, a filter to allow you to see only published skills. Yeah, I think I have 75 skills in my interface, but I only really care about like 7 or 8 of them. That's a very useful filter. Good point. I like that one. And Frank mentioned that adding the ability to create custom tasks would be useful. You have to use the CLI today. That is one of my overarching bits of feedback, is that there should be full parity between the CLI and the web interface. Santosh, look at this. We got your screen.
Yay, finally. The Firefox did it. All right. Should we switch topics and look at the lesson learning labs now?
Yes. If you can flip over there. I'm getting a little bit of an echo, but I think if you flip over to a different tab, maybe we won't get that.
I able to see my trains and workshop screen.
Ooh, we just lost it. This is something I've learned just now that we should plan for in advance. My apologies. It doesn't seem like this is going to work out very well for us today. How is your audio now? Are you still buzzy?
I can hear you okay.
Yeah, but your audio has gotten significantly worse. Do you have the Learning Lab loaded there?
Can you see this now? Can you see my screen?
I can only see basically our interface where we're talking to each other. But I can see Firefox, yes.
Okay. Let me. Can you see that? Amazon.com?
No. I only see your StreamYard tab. How does your audio now when you're not sharing? Can you see?
I think it's still the same.
Yeah, it sounds really echoey. I don't know if you're familiar with Doctor Who, but someone says you sound like a Dalek, which is this like really robotic voice.
All right. So then I should probably start. Sorry. So I think there are some permissions issue going on with my laptop. I don't know how to resolve this at this time.
Yeah, that's okay. Here, you know what I can do? I'll do the sharing. How about that?
Yeah. And
Oh, okay. So I have this sharing. So I'm gonna jump here and I'll share my screen. I'll probably get a little grainy, buzzy, whatever. But here we are in the course. So if you want to talk, I can kind of click and go where you want me to go.
yeah, so I think yeah. So if you get into the course by clicking on Start, so this is the first course, and this takes you to the basics of the Alexa presentation, the language. And Jeff, on the top left corner, there's a little hamburger menu, and if you click on that, you'll see the outline of the course um, there.
Excellent.
Um, and so this course, since it's only the fundamentals, so like some people asked here about APLA and APLT, and if you see, there is a section on APL and APLT right there, and you can it takes you into some of those details there, right? So since yep, so you'll find here, more about examples on how APLA works, what are the different types of APL, and few other things out there.
Cool. And so,
Um,
where would be a good example of people seeing, like actually interacting and trying stuff?
yeah. So if you let me give you the link for the course too. Give me 1 second. Um, Jeff, I just sent you a link. If you open that, so this is our second course. This takes you into creating a basic skill using APL. Again, if you go into the course outline on the left top corner, and let's go into the Alexa templates as an example, or Alexa headline, one of them. Yeah. So, for example, this is a good example. This course is taking you, teaching you how to use Alexa, templates and components. And once a concept is introduced at the bottom, you'll see the practice time, and you'll see an opportunity for you to practice what you learned just now, right? And in that, yeah, exactly. So if you go type in, your APLA document code, you'll see it being updated real time here. Thanks, Jeff. And now, Jeff, if you click on submit the code there, it does analyze your written code, and then gives you validations like where are some things that you know it needs course corrections. Here are some things that you've done right, and gets into some of those details out there, right? So this is specifically, trying to practice that one particular feature about Alexa headline. So we build on the concepts, and on the left hand side, if you go now into the exercise, Jeff. This is where we try to combine multiple topics together and give you a task to validate your own learning. We're not evaluating anything in the background here, but this is something, once you've gone through the concepts, it's like giving you a bunch of, steps and tasks for you to validate now to understand if you know how to do this now, right? Um, so the similar steps, you're presented with instructions. You go through some of those instructions out there. You write up the code. You submit to see, to get feedback on your written code there.
Very cool. So if again coming back here, you can see that I work through a module, so I get to learn from the pieces. I get to understand how these things work with some reading and screenshots and really, a nice interface. But then I'm also presented with, as we saw in the headline here, some inline practice, but also exercises that require me to meet a bunch of specific requirements, right? Like this is, if you look at this piece here, this instructions, think of this like the requirements you might have if you're building a project, right? This page needs to have this content, make it happen.
Yep.
And based on the things that you learned, this should be pretty straightforward and easy to do.
That's right.
Very good. All right. Well, I don't want to reveal the entire coursework. It's for people to come in and explore and discover. But I think this is a really good introduction to the idea that we have an interactive tool here that allows me to see exactly, if I can't even type my own name, see how this stuff works, how it renders, how I can move stuff around. Now, obviously, there are also tools in the developer console that do some of these things. But as you're going here, as you're learning, you can experiment and play and get feedback about how it's working. So I just think this is super cool.
Yeah. So, and Jeff, if you remember, you didn't load your skill up. You didn't need to have a voice skill. You're just focusing on that particular concept, which is presented to you out there. So it's a great way to learn.
Exactly right. Yeah, that's perfect. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna close this and stop sharing. And we have 9 minutes left, and I haven't looked. We have a ton of comments here, so let me scroll back a little bit and see if I can get back to where we were. Here we go. Let's see. Okay. I have someone behind the scenes named Jamie on my team here. It sounds to me like maybe our Slack link has expired. I'm going to have to take a look at that. But if you guys will check it like in an hour, I'll have it fixed. Sometimes that can expire, although I thought we had that solved. But it looks like cool. Okay, looks like it's all good. Okay, so let's see. Question, why can't we make knowledge skills publicly available for any Alexa device? Is there any alternative way to build a public Alexa skill from spreadsheet data? Daniel Jimenez on YouTube. Yes, you can totally do this, but you're not going to be, well, I guess I'm somewhat lying on that. The knowledge skill template, which you can use inside the developer console, is specifically designed to be used with Alexa smart properties and what used to be called Alexa for Business. The ability to basically build a knowledge skill based just on a spreadsheet that allows people to ask questions of the device and then receive predefined responses from a spreadsheet. There is not today a simple way to build an Alexa skill based entirely off of a spreadsheet. But I do have a bunch of samples of this kind of thing being done because a lot of my skills are built the same way. I mean, it's more complex than just a spreadsheet. But I have built a number of skills, including the Star Wars one that we mentioned earlier, that realistically are just running off of a spreadsheet. Now, mine is more a database, but it's really just a spreadsheet with like 30 different tabs. Because I have something for vehicles and one for planets and characters and droids and all sorts of stuff. So unfortunately today, if you want to build a skill that uses a spreadsheet as its backend service for data, you can do it, but it also requires some programming. And there isn't an easy way to get around that today. But this is really good feedback. I'm going to add this to my list of things we should do soon and in the future. And we'll see if we can't make that easier. There are also a number of templates available to you via Alexa Blueprints. If you go to blueprints.amazon.com, this is a place that has all sorts of pre-built kind of structures for Alexa skills. You'll see a lot of them are targeted at children, but there's a number of different things there. Depending on what the breadth of your skill that you want to build is, there is a Q&A template, which kind of follows the same idea as a knowledge skill, where you can go into that template, you can add a bunch of questions and answers, and then if people ask those questions of your device, they will get that answer. You can also publish that skill and make it available to the public. So that might serve your purposes, but there isn't a beyond using that specific template the way it's designed. There isn't a way to just take your spreadsheet and make a skill from it. Okay, let's see. Can the code be written in Python too? This comes from Yaw Hydra on Twitch. Yes. In fact, you can, when you're creating an Alexa skill, you can actually write it in any language. The backend system, the service that runs your skill could be written in any language. If you're a C# developer or a Ruby developer, all of that is fine. But we here at Amazon have provided 3 SDKs, one for JavaScript, one for Python, one for Java. And so if you use those 3, we actually have really nice SDKs that make a lot of this a whole lot easier. But if you're a C# developer, a good friend of mine at Microsoft, his name is Tim Hewer, he has created Alexa.net, which is basically a C# based SDK for Alexa. It's not supported by Amazon or endorsed in any way, but it's fantastic. I have used it. Something else to check out. I haven't seen one for Ruby specifically, but I haven't looked either. So it's very possible that those kinds of things exist. But those would be managed and maintained by third parties as like open source libraries more than they would the public SDKs that we offer. So let's see.
And Jeff, on the Alexa Learning Labs, we do support JavaScript. The Python support is coming up later in the year. That is in the works.
Nice. Oh, that's excellent. So in Learning Lab, today it's only JavaScript where a programming language is necessary. Yes. But you're saying in the future we'll offer Python also. That's cool.
Yes.
Let's see. We only have a couple minutes left. 3 minutes, in fact. There's a lot of really good conversation happening in the chat, but nothing that is like questions that I need to answer. So let's see. I'd love to have something that can answer arbitrary questions about the data. Yeah, I mean, that, like I said, with a little bit of programming, you can build something on top of Airtable or Google Sheets or any of that kind of stuff pretty easily. But you do have to have a little bit of programming to do so. Let's see. Lots of +1s for JavaScript and Python. That's good. And Dana Voices, can we get everything in JavaScript and Python everywhere, especially samples in the tech docs? Frank would like an Alexa Learning Labs course on DynamoDB. All right. Data-Driven Skills does have a book on Alexa development, and all the examples are in Python. So if you want to check out his book, you can do that. Let's see. Okay, so I think we've almost gotten to the end of the list, and we've almost gotten to the end of our hour. Ted Fay, you said, is certification a no-no topic? I think, are you asking, like, can I talk about certification stuff here? No, you're welcome to talk about anything here. I'm happy to hear any of your questions. And in fact, we regularly will have someone here from our developer advocacy group, which is the team that handles a lot of our Contact Us requests and has direct interaction with our certification team. They would be very receptive to any of your certification questions. Let's see. I think I've run out of questions. But with that, I want to thank all of you for tuning in. And Santosh, I certainly want to thank you for joining me today. Lots of good knowledge sharing, lots of good information for everybody to run with. And we've shared the link to the Learning Lab a number of times throughout the chat. So hopefully you all have access to that. Is there anything else you'd like to let people know before we sign off here?
No, it was great being here. Feel try out our Alexa Learning Lab, and at the end of the courses, there is a feedback form. If you have any feedback, please feel to provide us your feedback. That'll help us to improve and make this course better.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys all for tuning in. Always so great to see everyone, and we will see you guys all again next week. Except maybe me. Maybe I'll be here. Maybe I won't. We'll find out. But it'll take a week to know. So take care, everybody. And have a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, everyone. And thanks, Jeff, for having